Okay. Okay, welcome to the webinar on the Research Master's Program in Art History of the Low Countries at Utrecht University. Where's my slide clicker? Yeah. We are your host today. I am Sarah Moran. I'm assistant professor in the Department of Art History at Utrecht. I've been here for about 2 years. My interests are in women and gender, the Spanish Empire, religious imagery, and I have a focus on Flanders in the 17th century. This is my co-host, Maya Kenny.
Hello, everybody.
Who are you, Maya?
So I'm a second-year student in the program, and I'm half American, half Polish. And I did my bachelor at the University College Utrecht in biology, and then I spent 3 years as a pastry chef before deciding to rekindle my love for art history and coming here to learn about Dutch art history.
Fabulous. Yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm also American. I went to Amherst and Brown, and I worked in Switzerland and Belgium before I came to the Netherlands. Before we go further, you should know we do have a couple people who are monitoring the chat, Marlies Lammerts and Karen Smokers. So they're gathering your questions, and we will have a Q&A after Maya and I finish our little presentation. To give you a kind of summary of the program, this is a research master for those of you who are not in the EU. A research master is basically an advanced master's program. It's 2 years instead of the 1 year that is most master's programs here. They're not all. It is full-time. It's 120 EC or ECTS, which are basically European credit hours. And each EC equivalent is the equivalent of about 25 hours of actual work time. So your course material and teaching for this program are all in English. We're centered on art and architecture of the Low Countries. The Low Countries is a historical region that basically corresponds to the Netherlands and Belgium. That is our focus and our specialty, but we take it in a very, very broad context. So we can, you can work on stuff from the Middle Ages through the contemporary period, and we also have a very international kind of perspective. So if you have a topic that is linked to the Low Countries in some way, it will probably be something you can pursue here. So we also have an emphasis on real-world currency, which means basically we want to prepare you for an actual career and keep kind of up to date in the latest methods and theories and ways of working in the field. So we'll talk about that more later. One of the really, I think, attractive points of this program is the location. When you're here in Utrecht, you have really easy access to top experts in Dutch and Flemish art, to all the most important collections and archives and libraries that you would need for your study. So, try to change it on the wrong thing. So Maya, would you? Well, I'll talk a little bit first. As you can see on the map, or if it's too small for you, you can pull up Google Maps later, but we are very centrally located in the Netherlands. It is really less than 40 minutes to get to most of the main cities, to get to The Hague with the Royal Library and the Mauritshuis Museum, several other museums, Amsterdam with all of its museums, including the Rijksmuseum, and Rotterdam is also less than 40 minutes by train, and they're really have really great sources for modern architecture. Public transportation here is fabulous, very easy. I don't know anyone who actually has a car. You can also be with a train in Belgium very, very easily. So if you're interested in Southern Low Countries art, i.e. Largely what we call Flemish art now, you can be in Antwerp in 2 hours, Brussels in about 2.5, Ghent and Bruges in a little bit more. They're very easy day or weekend trips, and the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam will give you direct flights to pretty much any main European city. So it's a really great central place to base art history research. So now, Maya, if you want to talk a little bit about why you are here in Utrecht.
Yeah, so I chose Utrecht because, well, I lived here before, so I already knew that it was a really beautiful city. It has lots of little nooks and crannies. You can sort of see in the picture that the downtown is all old buildings, fun place to explore. It's a really rich history. And I chose Utrecht University because it does have a reputation for really great art historians, and one of the best Dutch universities overall. And this is a unique program in its scope and in its focus. So it's also nice. I'm sure some of you who joined us are from other countries. It's just great to have people from different places and backgrounds. Makes for some lively discussions in the classroom.
Mostly good.
Mostly good. Mostly good, yeah. And then also, if you're an international student, you get to make friends with Dutch students. You get access to a new culture, new traditions, and I know the Dutch students also benefit from having some international friends. So that part's great. And it's also just quite a livable city. Everything's really convenient, like Sarah said. Public transportation's easy. Shopping is easy. Getting around town is easy. Getting a bike is easy. It's just so easy. So easy. It's a great place to live. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll add a couple of things for me as a researcher and a teacher. I was really excited to have the opportunity to come here because it's a very dynamic research environment. It's one of the best universities in the Netherlands, certainly in some fields considered the best. We have really strong connections to other universities, and as Maya said, there's a very strong tradition of art history here, and you're really integrated into the network of art historians more broadly in the Netherlands. So if you're here, you know the people working at Leiden, you know the people working in Amsterdam, and yeah, Groningen as well, our main centers. So that was great. There's also a real emphasis on interdisciplinarity here, which is awesome for me. So there's multiple kind of institutions and centers that foster those kinds of connections and collaborative research. So we have the Heritage Lab, the Descartes Center for the History of Science and the Humanities, the Institute for Cultural Inquiry, the Center for Early Modern Studies, which I've done a good bit of work with, and the Center for Medieval Studies. So there's really all kinds of nodes of interaction and idea exchange that I think are fantastic. Also, I didn't mention this before, but one of our museums, the Caterina Convent, is a really unique institution. It's a museum for religious history and art in the Netherlands, and I think it's pretty unique. I don't know of any other collection or institution that really focuses on religious history through art history, which is sort of my thing. So
They do really
I'm
cool
into it.
exhibitions.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go back to the program, or we'll go to the program. So this is a very basic outline of what your 2 years look like here. It is a quarter system, so that's important to understand. And this is how basically your credits are divided up. Your first year is 40 credits of basically required courses, but they're very sort of broadly conceived courses. So they are institutions in current research, methods of art history, trends and shifts in art history, digital perspectives, and then 2 core research seminars, which are global and art and science. And a number of our faculty are specialized in several of these areas in different ways. So Victor Schmidt does a lot with research and methods. He's an Italianist. Ava Trullenberg is new here. She's been here for about a year. She does modern and a lot with museology. So if you want to do museum theory and really get into that, she's fantastic. I do kind of global stuff. I'm doing some digital stuff, which is developing. And like I look at the Spanish Empire, and I love teaching that. Thijs Weststein does more Dutch Empire and has just finished a big project looking at exchange between the Netherlands and China in the early modern period. And Sven Dupre is head of the Art Techna project, which you can look up. It's very cool. They deal with materials and techniques that have been used by artists and craftsmen in the past. And so he's our art and science guy. So these are really kind of broadly conceived courses. They're thematic, but within that you can really pick and choose your own topics to pursue, and we will support you as best we can. So Maya, do you want to tell us a little bit about things that you've done in the required courses?
Yeah, cool. So my interest is mainly modern art, but I'm also interested in contemporary. So I designed my own research for my specific interests, but you really get the tools and the skills you need to write your papers, no matter what your topic of interest is. So my favorite paper that I wrote in the last year was for the global art history class about the Utrecht children's book character, Miffy, like this really cute minimalist rabbit, and how she relates to Japanese pop culture. So learned a lot. And then one, you can see under the big 40, there's 10 credits for seminars of the Dutch Postgraduate School for Art History, which is a collaborative graduate school, and you're required to take 2 courses through them.
And that's with other universities?
Yeah, other universities and a few museums as well. So that's where you can also find some really cool stuff. So last year I got to spend 10 days in Rome taking an intensive course about the Arte Povera movement. It was a really amazing class, and the institute, the Dutch Royal Art History Institute or something, hosts you, stay there for 10 days. It's amazing. I also spent a week at the Van Gogh Museum last year, taking a course on symbolist art. And there's lots of other things you can take. You can participate in the ongoing Hieronymus Bosch project, or take a week-long course in Florence, other courses with museums. So lots of fun things to learn.
All kinds of stuff, yeah. And then under electives, you can also do your own paper. So basically an independent study. We call them Master Apprentice tutorials, and they'll be one-on-one with a faculty member. Yeah, so do we move on to the second year? First year covered?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was looking at the questions. I got a little distracted. Okay, so second year is really where you're doing your own thing. So half the credits are internship or study abroad. Most people do an internship. And the other half of the credits are the thesis. In terms of the actual kind of time, like semester 1, semester 2, they end up overlapping often. With your internships, you are pretty much totally free to choose where you want to go, what kind of work you want to do. It should be, a recognized institution, but other than that, total freedom. What often happens is that Dutch students in the program will go abroad, and foreign students will often work in Dutch museums, but that's not a rule at all. I don't have time to say all the places that we've had placements, but all over the Netherlands, all over the UK, including the Tate and the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Ashmolean as well, all over Belgium, Germany, Vienna at the Kunsthistorisches Museum, in Tokyo, Florence, Rome, Warsaw, and Budapest. And when you're working with a museum, you have the opportunity to kind of pick, working with your host institution, what kind of work you want to do. So if you want to focus more on the research aspects, you can do that. If you want to learn more about curation, you can do that. You can also do more with the public relations and kind of front-facing side of the museum. You can also, with this kind of credit block, do an internship in a more business or art market direction. So you could work at a private gallery, you could work at an auction house, in the art investment sector, or you could do a study abroad. Most people don't do that, but it is an option, and we've had someone go to Harvard before. So it's very, very open. Yeah. So Maya, tell us about your internship, which you are still very much in the middle of.
Yes. As a second-year student, I just sort of ending my first semester with my internship. I am doing a curatorial internship at the Centraal Museum here in Utrecht. I'm helping research and plan an exhibition on the Dutch surrealist Johannes Moesman, and I chose this internship because I was interested in surrealism, and the curator of modern art happened to be working on an exhibition in the right time frame for me. It's also about fetishism and gender, and international surrealism, so it's really fun to work on. I'm enjoying seeing how art history as a discipline plays into the professional world, so seeing how it actually works in real life. And I'm also proud to be participating in something that's actually tangible, a project that will have, something that people will see. Turns out that's important for me. Some people like, if there's...
Some of us write books, some of us make things that people come to see.
Or both.
Or both.
Ideally both. Yeah, so I'm really getting a hands-on approach, and it's really fun. And I'm also quite lucky because my internship has been extended for another year to see the exhibition through to opening day, and I'm not the only person that's happened to. So your internship is a really great opportunity to, extend towards maybe getting a job, but at least having something great on your resume. Some other students.
Fine. I call you kids too.
Great. We're all some other students in my year. One is doing an internship in the conservation department at the Frans Hals Museum in Haarlem, and another did research at the De Apel Contemporary Art Institute in Amsterdam. And a while back, I had a friend do an internship at the ING Bank's art collection. So there's really a lot.
All kinds of directions you can go. And yours sounds very cool in that you're doing a really kind of original exhibition.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just your standard sort of, here's an artist and here's his life,
exactly.
But really conceptual.
Yeah,
so.
And we're trying to keep it to contemporary issues that people will be interested in. And like I said, the curators are actually quite open to my ideas as well. So I've actually had some input. So fun.
I'm a little jealous. Okay, so I think we've started answering at least one question here about where people are doing their internships. We have time at the end. I can dig up a fuller list. But let's move on. Let's go back there. Talk about the thesis and how that works. So very often the internship kind of flows into the thesis. You might write about the same things you're doing in your internship, or use a lot of the research work that you've done during your internship or your experiences for your thesis, though that's not necessary. They can be separate. And for your thesis, you're learning how to do independent work, how to write something really original and intellectually sophisticated and mature, and ultimately often publishable. So I think one very good thing about this program is that all of the independent work you're doing, including tutorials, the work that you're doing in your internship, and for your thesis, a lot of times these end up being published. So I'm working with a woman right now on turning her tutorial into her tutorial paper into an article for publication. One of the master's theses I supervised last year made a kind of a splash. I'm sure he's going to publish it, but he's already been written up in national newspapers for finding a very cool feather headdress in a museum collection. So it was very cool. But yeah, like having publications already under your belt or underway during your master's program is really great for your CV. And all of our faculty are research focused. We know how publishing works, and we are very happy to help you. A few of us are also on editorial boards of some of the pretty fancy art history journals. So I think that's a real advantage of the program.
Take advantage of it for sure.
So do you want to talk a little about your own thesis?
Yeah, like what? So my thesis has kind of stemmed out of the work I did with my tutorials in the first year, and then naturally flowed through my internship and the research I did there. So got lucky. It's going to be about gender performativity and the Marquis de Sade in the Surrealist movement. So lots of spicy reading there. Yeah, so in the last quarter of the first year, you do a research design class that teaches you how to write a thesis proposal and prepares you for the amount of work it's going to be. And then you're not just left to do it by yourself. There's also a thesis meetings that you have every month or so in the last semester to keep up with you.
You have an advisor.
And you also have a supervisor and someone who reads it, and lots of people making sure you do a good job.
Yes, and generally you all do wonderful jobs. I'm very impressed.
Hope so.
Yeah. Well, I haven't read yours yet.
No,
it'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. Okay, so let's see. Career prospects. There. Okay, so as we touched on, we're a pretty versatile program. We want to be able, and I think this is kind of maybe not unique, but kind of unusual. We want to really be able to help you prepare for a variety of careers related to art history. So if that is academia, we will help you get into a PhD program. Sometimes our students continue at Utrecht with the bigger projects that our faculty are doing. We've also placed people at Ghent University and Leuven University in Belgium, the Sorbonne in Paris, LMU Munich. How do you say that in English?
Munich.
Yeah. Goethe University in Frankfurt, the University of Constance, also in Germany. Also Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, Northwestern, and the University of Toronto. So we do a pretty good job preparing you for a PhD, and we'll help you with your applications, of course. As far as museums, we also, we have, as faculty members, many and varied connections to museums that can help you get your first job there, or second if you count the internship, I guess. So we have former students working at the Rijksmuseum, the Boijmans in Rotterdam, the Stedel in Frankfurt, the Groeningen in Bruges, the Royal Library of Brussels, the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, and the Museo Nacional de Bellas Artes in Santiago de Chile.
All over.
Yeah, so that's a sampling of where our students end up. And if you want to go into the private sector, again, there are options there. At present, more of our students go into museums and academic programs, but that is an option, working with banks. You said one of your cohort is at ING right now, galleries, auction houses. Yeah. All of the things. Yeah. All of the things we'll try to help you do. Yeah. Yeah, and so what are you going to do when you grow up?
When I grow up,
I don't know the answer yet.
I don't either. But I'm using my internship kind of as a test to see if curation is the right career for me, and so far I've loved it more and more. You know, sitting in curator meetings, going to artist studios with my boss, getting to write painting acquisition forms, and just seeing how museums work has just been amazing, and also just using these art history skills as well. And yeah, like I said, great boost for the resume. So
awesome. And part of your work is going to be published in the catalog, right?
Yeah.
Did we say that already?
I don't think so, but okay. I'm hoping to publish either part of my thesis or a separate paper in the catalog for the exhibition. So
it's going to be great. Yeah, I am too. Okay, so let's see. We will move on to requirements. This is not actually on the slide for some reason, but you should have a BA or almost be done with a BA or the equivalent for where you are. It can be in art history. It doesn't have to be in art history, but it should be a related field. I mentioned to Maya earlier, I did a double bachelor's in fine arts, like studio art and English literature, and then took some art history classes, and then went into graduate study for art history, and that's about the kind of path that our students could take too. So it doesn't have to be art history. You do need to, quote, be able to interpret and apply complex theories in the field of art history. So there for your writing sample, ideally you'll have a paper from an art history class. We are a bit flexible there, though. So it's more about your potential to do this than actual solid. You've already got all the theories down. Because English is a requirement since the whole course is in English. Both passive and active. Active means speaking and writing both. And you'll see on our website if you're interested, if you haven't already looked. If you have a high school or college diploma from an English-speaking country, you're fine. If you do not, you'll be required to take a language test. So that varies depending on where you're from. For the U.S., it's the TOEFL. There's a couple others we accept. But if you're Japanese and you went to high school in Canada, you're fine. So our last requirement is motivation. So you should really be excited about studying art history and using that in your career. I think this is not a program where we're going to hold your hand and be like, okay, now do this and do this and do this. Like, you really have to kind of find the fire within. Indeed. But that said, I think we're pretty demanding in terms of entry requirements, but also quite flexible. So if you're not sure if you'd be a good fit, please do contact the program coordinator. So the very last thing our deadlines, EU students, the 1st of April, coming up kind of soon.
Or non-EU students?
No. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Non-EU students, 1st of April. EU students, 1st of June.
Indeed.
And I think we've hit time pretty well. Did we forget anything?
I don't think so, but if we did, you guys can ask us.
All right. Okay, so we will go to the Q&A. Okay, so we have one from Julia who says, I have about 30 EC in art history. Is this enough to be eligible for the program? Officially, the guideline is 45 EC if you're not an art history major. If you have other credits in highly related fields, maybe. So you should definitely contact us and see if that works. Do you want to read the next one?
Yeah, sure. So Avent says, could you guys elaborate more on the study abroad opportunity? Do we have exchange arrangements, or do we have to do it ourselves? And how do students find a place to go?
Okay, so that is for the period that usually is an internship. We do have arrangements with several other universities. We have close links with Berkeley, a number of EU universities. I would have to look up our official list of official linked schools. I don't know them off the top of my head. So yes, there are links. You can also arrange to go somewhere else if you can make that work. So if it's not someone we're affiliated with, you'd have to talk to the department there and see how it works in terms of them hosting you for a semester and also in terms of possible money issues. Okay. So we have Miffy says, I finished my high school diploma in Canada as well. Do I have to take the English test? No, you do not.
Great. Let's see. Marion asks, what is the advantage of having done a research master as opposed to a regular master in terms of future employment possibilities?
That is a very good question. So it is within the EU, it's going to be seen as more advanced than a regular master, and the job market in museums is certainly competitive. So it will definitely help. If you're going to work in a gallery, it may not matter quite as much. If you're going to academia, it will definitely matter. European universities recognize that it's a more advanced degree. You're more likely to get into a PhD program with a research master rather than a regular master, though it is not impossible to move forward with a regular master. For PhD programs in the US and Canada, the term research master isn't going to mean so much because we don't have that. But PhD programs there vary a lot in how much credit they'll give you for courses that you've already done, and whether they will make you do like their own version of a master's or not. So if you have 2 full years of an art history master's program and you're going into a PhD program, you're probably going to have to do less of the requirements when you get to the PhD program. So basically, instead of 3 years of coursework or something, you might only do 1 or 2. Yeah, so those are the advantages.
This question's definitely for you.
Maria. Yes, okay. I'm interested in the relationship between Latin American art and the Netherlands. Is it possible to study that relationship within this master program? Absolutely. That's something that I am working on right now. And I very much want to kind of build up our program in this area. So I work on a little bit more like Flemish Spain connections, Antwerp Spain connections. I've started doing some work on Mexico City. So yes, I would love for you to come here and work on that. And I also, I have connections with a lot of other scholars in this area, so you would be well supported.
Yeah, Sarah taught some cool classes last year about exactly that. So
Cannibals.
Cannibals.
Cannibals everywhere.
Exactly, yep. Cannibals and Mayans. Okay, question from me. From Mia. Hi, can we touch on finding housing as an international student? Good question. I can see that Karen referred you to the website, but my answer would be definitely start looking as soon as you apply. And in Utrecht, there is a company called SSH, which provides 1 year of housing for international students. So they'll give you a room or if possibly sometimes a small apartment in the city, and they do kind of the work of finding the place for you. So it's not as hard as like looking through Facebook, but try out a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think many things are easy about living here. Housing is maybe not one of the easiest things. So SSH, and also do start looking early. And you can absolutely contact us, and we can put you in touch with current students, like Maya.
I found my house on Airbnb, actually, so be creative. You'll find something.
Okay. Let's see. Stephanie says, I'm afraid I don't get much information about the Low Countries things on the website. So how does it relate to art history? I'm not quite sure what you mean, Stephanie.
Do you mean history? Like what?
I think we have to improvise here.
Well, in terms, okay, so Low Countries, like what Sarah said, is the Netherlands, Flemish Belgium, and
well, it's all of Belgium, but
all of Belgium, and I guess the Rhine region in Germany as well.
Little bits of Germany and a little bit of France. So right. I mean, historically it's a region that was largely owned by other people, and which split with the Dutch Revolt in the 16th century, but maintained a lot of cultural connections. So it's a super exciting area to study, because you get this place where people call themselves, Low Countries Netherlanders, but half of it is like Protestant and independent and fighting off Spain, and the other half is Catholic and still part of the Spanish Empire. So that relates to our history in about an infinite number of ways.
So basically, I mean, most basically it's art produced here, but it could be really
but it could also
commerce
be
connection between art produced in China that's then brought over here in the trade routes of the East India Company. Yeah. Like, really, it's whatever you're interested in. Stephanie, are you the person from Indonesia?
Wait, what?
I think so. There's I was reading some of the questions, but I think she is. So there's also a great connection between the Netherlands and Indonesia that you could certainly explore.
I mean, with a lot of work has been done on connections between Antwerp and Mexico and South America, because of all of the prints that are exported through Antwerp that come into South America that are used to make altarpieces and Catholicisms, everybody. So that's an area of or an angle of approach. Yeah. So
I hope that answered your question.
Should we answer one more?
Okay. So
I think we had like 5 more.
From Emma, a person. Can I combine the thesis with an internship? I think we kind of answered that, but I don't know if I would. You should certainly start thinking about your thesis while you're doing your internship, just for sort of time's sake. But I don't know if you necessarily have time to do both at the same time.
I would more say it would be strategic to think about the work you're doing in your internship as useful for your thesis. rather than thinking about I am doing these two things at the exact same time. Yeah. So should we hit these last two? Maya already answered what she's going to do when she grows up. I didn't. Why did you choose it? What is your favorite course? I don't know. Do you want to like point to a highlight?
Yeah. My two favorite classes were definitely the 10-day course I did in Rome. Just exploring the city like by myself and then with an expert in contemporary Roman art was amazing. Went to some really weird places. And then in the core classes, I really liked the global art history course because that's when I started to see how, art history can be a way of connecting the world through.
Right. And I loved her presentation in the global art history seminar on Miffy and Japanese cartoons, and that was so educational for me. Yay. So
Awesome. Okay.
I think we're about out of time.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. It was great. Very good questions. And please email humanities@uu.nl if you have any more questions, and they'll direct your emails to the proper people in the program. Yeah. Okay. So signing off.
Thank you.
Bye.